In'wina vakokwani va rixaka. Ha mi khensa swinene. Mi tsaka swinene loko ni mi vona mi ri laha hinkwenu namuntlha. Now, we the fathers, the grandfathers, and the uncles and the sons of our nation, we are also here to celebrate this day with you. We are here because we honor you. We are here as the men of our country to pay tribute to you, because we have to honor you as the women of our country. You are the fabric of our nation. You are the glue that keeps our nation together. You give birth to us. You care for us. And so today we honor you and we pay tribute to you. On this day, we say, Malibongwe igama lamakhosikazi. And I say, Malibongwe igama lamakhosikazi, so that all the men of South Africa should know that as men we must respect the women of South Africa. We must do what Minister Chikunga was saying. We must love the women of South Africa. And I will say to men, if you don't have anybody to love, come to me, I will show you. I will direct you. Taukrela msadi. Aosa tebu freya. Ute mon nakita ubonsa. Orogo freya jwa. Yesterday, when a woman is empowered, everyone gets empowered. When a woman prospers, everyone prospers. When a woman rises, we all rise. I saw that yesterday. Yesterday we went to launch a water facility in Vereeniging. We were led there by the Minister of Water and Sanitation. We were launching a facility that will deliver 600 million liters of water a day to Gauteng, Mpumalanga, Northwest, and Free State. Now, as they were taking me through this whole facility, lo and behold, the people who were showing me everything, how it works, the machinery, how they draw water from Lesotho, from the Val Dam, and how they wash and clean the water, and how they process the chemicals and everything. At every stage of that whole process, it was women who were leading the process. They are the ones who were telling me that, Mr. President, I designed this whole facility of 5 billion rand. Each one was saying, I am an engineer, I'm a civil engineer, I'm a chemical engineer, I'm a water engineer, I'm a biologist, and. So women yesterday were demonstrating to me that they are capable, they are able to do things, they are even able to manage complex processes. And when I left, I had this sense that indeed, this country is doing a lot to empower the women of our country. That's why I say when you empower a woman, you empower everyone. Le hono re batla bolela ka tseo tse mmuso wa rena o di diang go etsetsa gore bomme ba setšhaba se sa South Africa ba tswelle pele. Re batla go bolela ka mathata a ba kopanang le ona ha ba ntse ba tswella pele le maphelo a bona. Mamotla re batla go bolela ka tseo tse ba tshwenyang go etsetsa gore re kgone go di lokisa. But at the same time, yes, we pay tribute to all the imbokodo of our country in terms of what they do. Yes, men were already subjected to humiliation for carrying passes, but the women of our country were subjected to the triple oppression. They were oppressed because they were women. And let it be clear, all women were oppressed, both black women and white women and colored women and Indian women. When we talk about the empowerment of the women of our country, we are also talking about all the women of our country. White women, even though they were part of the privileged class, they too were not allowed to get into high positions. They were not allowed to thrive and demonstrate the ability of women. So the process that we are involved in of empowering women, it is a wholesome process. We want to empower all the women of South Africa. And as we empower them, we will embark on programs, we will embark on initiatives that will enable the women of South Africa to rise. And it is on a day like this, when we celebrate the women of our country, we celebrate all. But it is also a day on which we make a clarion call to accelerate the role of women in the economy and to empower them, as well as to tackle complex barriers such as poverty, inequality, and unemployment that continue to hinder their development. Yes, as the Premier was saying, till today, yes, the color of poverty is still seen in the face of a black woman. And this country remains committed to making sure that we address the challenges that our women continue to face. The theme of this year's Women's Month is building resilient economies for all. But I will say it must be about building resilient economies to empower the women of South Africa. That's what it should be about. Now, one of the overriding and overarching purpose of having these types of commemorations is not only to remember what happened when the 20,000 women marched on the Union buildings, is to actually ensure that during this month of August, we keep on raising the flag about the important role that women should play to participate in everything that affects their lives and the lives of all of us in South Africa. Starting with leadership, we need to make sure that the women of our country do participate in the leadership of various sectors in the country, be it, yes, in the cabinet, yes, in parliament, yes, in the municipality, in companies, in every aspect of South African life. We must make sure that there is participation by women. Now, we are making sure that this happens as a cabinet of the Republic. When ministers come forward, when they want to appoint committees, and we've got many committees of state-owned enterprises, of various commissions, even today with the NYDA, when they come forward, they bring names. The question that is always asked, and I always ask, do you have 50% women representation or not? And when it is not there, they are turned back. We tell them that we cannot continue having a situation where we have committees, where we have structures, and the women of our country are not represented. So it has now become a law. It has now become a protocol and a practice that any structure that we put together must have 50% or more representation by women, and ideally more, because women, I must say, even talking about against my own tribe of women, of men, that I have found that women always make a much more meaningful participation and input than men. Sorry, men, but women are a shade cleverer than the men. And so therefore, that is why we insist that every structure that we put together must ensure that women are brought into leadership positions. We also want to focus on advancing women's access to decent work, to entrepreneurship, to financial inclusion, to every aspect that will promote their economic well-being. Re toda uri batho ba bafumakadzi ba songo siwa murahu hu tshi ḓiwa kha zwithu zwa mishumo, hu tshi ḓiwa kha zwithu zwa ikonomi, ba dzhenisiwe, ba kone u vhona uri na vhone ba kone u bvelela phanḓa. Now, as government, we have accelerated the process of making sure that, yes, at the economic level, the women of our country are indeed empowered. Now, these developments indicate that South Africa's resolute drive towards establishing gender parity is strong. We have consistently grown the number of women taking key positions in leadership roles. The heroic march of the women of 1956 in many ways paved the way to ensure that the women of our country have equal rights. Their courageous actions culminated in the creation of a non-sexist, non-racial state that was cemented through our Constitution. And it was quite pleasing to hear the young girls from the school, the agricultural school, Merensky Agricultural School, reciting the preamble of our Constitution. And this is pleasing because these young girls grow up knowing our Constitution. But not only knowing the Constitution, knowing that the Constitution is an instrument that they can use to enforce their own rights. There is today greater inclusion of women in various sectors of our life, in the economy, and also in key leadership positions. There is progress, but this progress, fellow South Africans, is not enough. We cannot rest until we have achieved gender equality throughout society. Today, the women of our country continue to reap the benefits of the changes that were ushered in through the brave actions of the women of 1956. But there is still a lot that we need to do. And over the years, the government has done a lot to accelerate access to basic education. The Employment Equity Act has also been another tool that we have used. And this is where it becomes funny for me that there are those in our society who oppose the Employment Equity Act, who also impose empowerment instruments that we've put together. And they least realize that all those instruments are meant to lift all those who were oppressed by the previous system, including those white people who the previous system gave privileges to. It did not give all the privileges because people who are disabled, who happen to be white, were not empowered. People who are women who happen to be white were not empowered. And it is through these acts, employment equity and various other acts, that we are seeking to raise everyone to the fore who were disadvantaged in the past. And the women of our country are the ones who need to be lifted up more because they have borne the brunt of the oppression of the past. The empowerment of women will contribute to sustainable development. It will contribute to inclusive growth and the cultivation of resilient economies. About 40% of preferential procurement in the public sector is meant to go in the direction of empowering women-owned businesses. We declared this, and we want to make sure that indeed it does happen. Government wa hina a xava swilo hi lava ku vona ku ri 40% ya swona swi ta nghena mavokweni a vanhu va hina va mhani va hina va sesi va hina I ti-business ta vona. We want to make sure that women-owned small medium enterprises are supported through the National Empowerment Fund, the Small Enterprise Finance Agency, and various other finance agencies, yes, including the newly formed 100 billion rand National Empowerment Fund that we decided on just past this budget and past the State of the Nation. Our government must continue to work towards enhancing gender equality and empowerment. We are committed to expanding economic opportunities for women through skills training, entrepreneurial support, access to funding, as well as the sectoral partnership to place women in key sectors of the economy. We also want to continue our work to increase the participation of women in key sectors such as science, technology, engineering, maths, as well as the green economy and industrial sectors. We do not want to see our women playing menial roles. We do not want the women of our country continuing to play roles of being cleaners, of being house servants. We want the women of our country to rise, to play key and pivotal roles in the economy of our country. There must be scientists, there must be engineers, there must be accountants, they must be doctors, and the best that this country can produce. We also want to increase women's role in digital finance, which includes digital banking and access to finance and investments. Women-led enterprises are being supported through policies, mentorships, and funding. Now, through capacity building initiatives, we aim to increase the participation of women, yes, in politics, in business, and in society. In Greater Tzaneen, women make up a significant portion of the population and continue to play critical roles in education, health, agriculture, and the informal economy. And yet, much like many other parts of the country, women continue to battle unacceptable levels of gender-based violence, high unemployment, teenage pregnancies, limited access to economic opportunities, as well as patriarchal social structures that are barriers to their full empowerment. Women continue to struggle under gender-based violence. This issue of gender-based violence has become a very painful issue to many of us, because rather than see gender-based violence going down, we continue to see incidents of gender-based violence. But what is more troubling is how the men of our country continue to abuse women, not only by killing them, by raping them and brutally killing them, but it gets worse when it actually involves the rape of children. Children as young as a few months, children as young as 2 years, and the impregnation of young girls, as it was being said earlier here by Minister Chikunga. That is painful. And that is why we say we must all rise against gender-based violence. We must all rise, men and women, and make sure that we bring the levels of gender-based violence down. In many ways, many women continue to struggle to go through life. Yes, they struggle to have access to basic services, especially water. Many women in our country rely on boreholes, but they are often non-functional due to theft, lack of maintenance, and lack of proper infrastructure installation. We cannot and will not leave anyone behind, including the women of this area here. There are therefore serious questions that need to be answered when it comes to service delivery that negatively affect the lives of women. We therefore need to do as much as we possibly can to address all these challenges that the women of our country are experiencing. At government level, we are committed to make sure that we uplift the lives of the women of our country. At society level, men and women must work together and put the interests of women in the front to make sure that we address the interests of women so that we lift them up. And I therefore call on all in society, in companies, in organizations, in sports organizations, in religious bodies, in every endeavor of South African life, that we must focus on uplifting the women of South Africa, because when you uplift a woman, you are essentially uplifting the whole nation. Women always make sure that when they are empowered, they ensure that they empower their families. They are the ones who lift the livelihoods of their families, and by so doing, also lift the life of the nation. And we therefore say to the men of South Africa, we want August month to be a month on which we focus on the best that we can do for the women of South Africa. We want the men of South Africa to pull out all stops and do everything that will lead to the empowerment of women. Even if it just takes saying to the women around you, whether they are your mothers, your grandmothers, your wives, your girls, and that's all you need to say. But you also need to do much more and demonstrate your support and your love for the women of South Africa. The women of South Africa have gone through a lot, possibly more than many other women in the world, because they were oppressed, because they were women, they were black, and they were working class. So therefore, we need to do much more to uplift them. So let us strive to be a society that cares for that section of our population that enhances our lives. It is the women of South Africa that enhance our lives, that make our life better. So let us ensure that we strive in everything we do to enhance that. I do want this to sink in the minds of men, to sink so that men in our country know that real men do not abuse women. A real man does not abuse a woman. Monna o feletseng ha tsamai a bula zipi ya gagwe a bulela bao ba sa batleng. Monna wa nnete ha tsamai a betha mosadi. Monna wa nnete ha reipi mosadi. Monna wa nnete a bolae mosadi. So we want the men of our country, of South Africa, to respect our women, to support our women, to uplift our women, to ensure that the women of South Africa succeed. Don't compete with women. Help them to succeed and to prosper. Then if you do all that as a man, you will be a real man. Then you will be recognized for it, yes. Umonna ka nnete. Umonna ka nnete. And in turn, the women of our country will give you the necessary respect and love. Ka hobane se ke se tsebang, leswi